Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Give me just about 8 minutes of your time today because we're diving into some absolutely groundbreaking research that is totally flipping the script on everything we thought we knew about Alzheimer's disease. For decades, modern medicine really just took one single approach to this. But today, we're pivoting. We're going to look at how compounds derived from cannabis, specifically CBD and THC, might actually calm the brain inflammation driving the disease and ease the heartbreaking dementia symptoms that patients face.
Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit the Alzheimer's treatment crisis, look at a brand new target, brain inflammation, and see how we might calm the brain with CBD. Then we'll discuss treating dementia's absolute toughest symptom, walk through the Libby clinical trial, and wrap up with the hope, cautions, and next steps.
So Part 1, the Alzheimer's treatment crisis.
All right, so Alzheimer's is projected to affect a whopping 152 million people by 2050. That is a massive number. And honestly, traditional treatments, the ones focused entirely on clearing out brain plaques, they're really hitting a wall. They just aren't stopping the disease or easing the immense burden on caregivers. Which brings us to a huge paradigm-shifting question. What if Alzheimer's is, at its core, actually an immune disease? Scientists are now exploring if it's really an autoinflammatory condition. It's a completely new lens for treatment.
Which brings us to Part 2, a new target, brain inflammation.
If we treat Alzheimer's as an immune issue, the real enemy here becomes chronic inflammation. You see, you have these things called the IDO and CGAS pathways. Think of them like the brain's internal fire alarm system. Normally, totally fine. They regulate your immune response and keep everything perfectly balanced. But in Alzheimer's, it's like somebody pulled that fire alarm and it just got stuck in the on position. Your immune system basically goes rogue and enters this runaway state, constantly attacking perfectly healthy nerve tissue.
Moving right along to Part 3, calming the brain with CBD.
So researchers at Augusta University went looking for an override switch for that stuck fire alarm. And you know what they found? Inhaled cannabidiol, CBD. Now, instead of your overactive immune system just panicking and pumping out all these damaging cytokines in pure chaos, CBD steps in as a sort of immunomodulator. It doesn't just ruthlessly suppress the immune system, no, it balances it. It actively turns down those harmful pathways and brings things right back into cellular harmony.
And the data we're seeing from these preclinical mouse models is just incredibly encouraging. CBD directly reduced the expression of those stuck pathways we just talked about. It actively lowered the bad pro-inflammatory stuff while, at the exact same time, boosting the good anti-inflammatory markers. So it's a dual action. Not only does it calm down that runaway immune response, but researchers literally saw measurable improvements in the mice's memory and cognitive behaviors. Talk about a game changer.
That leads right into Part 4, treating dementia's toughest symptom.
Now, as Alzheimer's hits those late stages, patients very often suffer from severe end-of-life agitation. We're talking about pacing, wandering, sudden vocal outbursts, or severe physical tension like hitting and kicking. We really need to look at this with a ton of empathy. If you have ever cared for an aging loved one, you know exactly how heartbreaking this is to witness. These folks have often lost the ability to use words, so this aggressive behavior is usually just a desperate signal, a cry for help because of physical discomfort, unmet needs, or just pure terror.
And here is the really tough part. We do a pretty terrible job of managing this right now. The current standard of care relies heavily on prescribing off-label drugs like antipsychotics, benzodiazepines, and opioids. These are intense medications that carry literal black box warnings for older adults. They don't actually fix the agitation, you know? They just chemically sedate the patient. And worse, they bring high risks of severe side effects, even increased mortality. So there is an absolutely desperate need for a better solution.
Which brings us to a major ray of hope in Part 5, the Libby clinical trial.
To tackle this desperate need, researchers launched a massive double-blind study focused on a group that's historically completely overlooked: hospice-eligible dementia patients. Over 12 weeks, they gave 120 patients a very specific oral oil. It contained just 2 milligrams of THC, paired with a massive 100 milligrams of CBD given twice a day. This highly asymmetrical, meticulous dose is brilliant because it's purely therapeutic. You get the medical benefits of both cannabinoids without causing the psychoactive high that you'd normally associate with marijuana. And wow, the sheer magnitude of the results here is just staggering. By week 12, an amazing 87.2% of patients
getting the THC and CBD therapy showed significant global improvement in their agitation. Compare that to just 23.6% in the placebo group. Plus, relief started rapidly, literally by week 2. Most importantly, there were 0 serious adverse events related to the drug. No severe sedation, no accelerated mortality, nothing.
You know, it's really easy to get lost in the statistics and the charts, but we have to remember the human element here. Dr. Jacobo Minzer, who led the Libby trial, really hit the nail on the head. He framed this whole thing beautifully, saying this treatment is about offering them grace and peace in what is often an extremely difficult time for patients and their families. This isn't just about dropping a score on some medical chart. It's about restoring a sense of dignity and comfort at the very end of life, easing the suffering of both the patients and their heartbroken families.
So, let's wrap things up in part 6. Hope, cautions, and next steps.
Now, as incredibly exciting as the Libby trial is, we absolutely have to stay grounded in clinical reality. This therapy does wonders for managing symptoms, but we have to be clear, it is not a cure for Alzheimer's. And please, it is super important to distinguish this rigorous medical-grade formulation from recreational cannabis use. Unregulated high-dose THC can actually be really harmful to older adults. As we age, our bodies metabolize drugs differently, so strict medical supervision and pharmaceutical-grade standards are totally non-negotiable before trying anything like this.
But even with those cautions in mind, the ultimate goal here is looking incredibly bright. We are literally witnessing a fundamental shift in medical science right now. By redefining neurodegeneration as a disease of immune imbalance, scientists are throwing open the doors to a totally new class of therapies. The future might not be about fighting a losing battle against brain plaques anymore. Instead, it's all about restoring the brain's natural homeostasis.
So I'm going to leave you with this one final provocative thought. As we gear up for massive phase 3 clinical trials, you really have to wonder, will targeting and restoring the brain's immune balance soon become the brand new standard of care for Alzheimer's disease? The science is moving incredibly fast, and for patients and their families, the hope has honestly never been more grounded in real, promising data. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.